I guess we are recording. All right, here we are in my kitchen, and we're gonna make some paper mache paste, slap it on some balloons, and call it a pinata. That's the victim. Mr. Stahl is gonna be helping. So I'm gonna adjust my screen so you guys can hopefully see what's going on here. And we'll just get going. So first thing you need to do is make your paste, which is going to be 1 part flour. And I'm just using this little glass dish I have as a measuring cup. I'm going to dump that into my bowl. It cleans up better from a glass bowl rather than plastic, just pro tip there. And then we're going to add 1 full container using that same container that I just used, and kind of stir that in. And get that nice and mixed. It'll be way too thick at this point, but try to mix some of the lumps out. And then do about a half of that same container. And it's a good thing if your water is not freezing cold. It just mixes a little easier. And just let that get good and mixed up. What you see laying on the table here in front of me are some of the strips of newspaper. Remember, the longer the strips, sometimes the lumpier. Kind of just depends on the surface you're trying to paper mache. And if you find that it's starting to look too lumpy, the key is to make your strips a little shorter. So now you can see it doesn't even hold on to the whisk. It's nice and runny, but it's still totally white and opaque. All right, so we'll get that whisk out of the way and the flour out of the way. And bring over some balloons. All right, so when you start to put the paper mache onto the balloon, you're gonna find that when you lay your strip across, your balloon is gonna want to roll over. So a good thing to do to eliminate that problem is cruise over to the cabinet, grab a couple of bowls, and we'll just use those as supports for our balloons. Let me see you okay? All right, there we go. And you guys remember from the bug project, you just want to get your paper mache paper wet with the paper mache goo before you put it on, and then make sure that you overlap your pieces. You can see I've got a tablecloth, plastic tablecloth over my table to kind of help with the cleanup. Just lay that on your balloon. Smooth it out. Right away you'll notice that the difference between the homemade version of paper mache paste and what we used at school is that it is maybe just a little bit chunkier, but the good news is it feels less like snot than the stuff that we used at school. So for those of you that were a little nervous about doing this because you hated the way that other stuff feels, you might be pleasantly surprised with how this goes. We should have put some music on.
I was going to ask about that.
If you get bored, you can dip out and throw some music on.
Okay. Some happy paper mache making music.
Or whatever. some "Let's Make a Coronavirus and Destroy It" music, since Corona has messed with so much of our school year. It's a relatively quick process. Part that probably takes the most time in building your pinata is the wait time in between the drying of your layers. So that we will have to cheat a little bit with that part. There we go. I don't know if the speakers will pick that up. Now, as you start to paper mache around the end, I'm going to leave this part open because that's where I'm going to put my candy in. So leave a little opening somewhere so that you can shove it full of candy once it has hardened and been decorated. I feel how that balloon wants to get away from you because it gets heavy on the top side. Yeah, the bowl is like the thing. It'll keep it from rolling away from you.
That helps.
Okay, there we go. Let me hog in all the strips here. Dude, you're dripping it all over the floor.
It's just flour and water. In the zone.
You're in the zone, okay. I really hope that this isn't like crazy overexposed. It looks like it's okay. It's hard to tell. I guess I maybe should have like checked my hair before I turned the video on, but oh well.
I'm in the making art with Mrs. Stahl zone.
Oh my goodness. How you doing over there?
Pretty good.
I'm about
The longer strips are a little more difficult.
50% of the way there. We've been
Strips are
going
harder to smooth all the way down.
for 9 minutes and I'm halfway there, so it doesn't take all that long.
Like this longer strip is harder to
Yeah,
smooth on the surface.
yeah, it'll have like little bumps and buckles in it. So the shorter ones are definitely a little friendlier to get smooth.
Are you leaving your roller somewhere down there? That makes sense to not
Yeah.
hit roll or something. is a big bump.
Yours might be a little too wet, and that's why you're getting so much drippage going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Squeegee them off a little bit more. I think they'll have a better look.
Play Mr. Cocktail Party Radio.
Good thing we're listening to indoor ads.
Pandora with smart speaker, TV, gaming console, and more. Tap the banner to learn more.
I'm gonna be really sad if this doesn't work. If the video doesn't work, we have to do it over again. I'm gonna swear. Just so you know.
Cool.
Off camera, of course.
They can go all different directions, right? It's not.
Yeah. Just want to make them lay as flat as they can and make sure that they overlap each other. That's the key. If you need to switch up the directions a little bit, that's okay. Nice. Getting there. You need to switch it more. It's just going to take a month of Sundays to dry. It's a lot easier if you have a colored balloon. My white balloon is kind of hard to tell where little gaps might be. I think I am almost done with my first layer. I'm just gonna rotate this around. I'm not showing off. Try to get any of the little buckles to lay down if you can. You're not going to get all of them perfect. And then at this point, we can go ahead and add the second layer. I wouldn't do more than 2 layers at a time. because it'll just take too long for it to dry, but we still have paste and we still have some newspaper. So I'm going to go in and go ahead and get a second layer on here. Now doing a second layer on a wet layer is a little bit tricky because you really have to pay attention to where you've already been because it all looks the same. If you step away from this and let the first layer dry and come back tomorrow, it'll be much, much easier to distinguish the dry stuff from the wet stuff that you're putting on and make it a little bit easier for you. Or if your strips are just real soaked, like my partner over here, then I probably wouldn't go with the second layer right away because you want to give that first layer a chance to kind of dry out. And that's why we stretch this project out over several days, because that dry time is what takes the bulk of the time.
How big of a space?
That's good. You just want to be big enough that you can, like, what's your biggest piece of candy you're going to shove into it? You're going to put, like, mini candy bars, or if you're just going to put, like, small hard candies or Jolly Ranchers or whatever. And then you can make the hole kind of small. Maybe I'll fill my pinata with PPE. All right, good enough. All right. Here's half of my second layer done. You just want to keep going at this until you've got somewhere between 3 and 4 layers on there, to make a nice solid pinata so that the first person that swings at it doesn't just knock all of the goodies out. You want to make sure that everybody who is at your coronavirus smashing event gets to take a whack at the pinata and it doesn't explode on the first try. So you want to put at least 3 to 4 layers on these so that they're nice and solid.
So these are kind of ready to go for a second layer here.
Yeah, sure. You might as well use up our paste. So
I'm kind of mopping up excess.
oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, sometimes your surface is moist enough you almost don't have to put anything on the newspaper. Just a little bit, just a dab will do, and then you can move on to the next strip. It speeds things up a little bit. Another reason for putting 2 layers on, if you can, at the first try is that you know what happens to a balloon when it sits overnight. Anyone who had a birthday party and saved their balloon and then came back to it the next day and was like, oh, my balloon got tiny. Balloons do tend to lose their air a little bit overnight. So if you've got a nice shell over the top of this, then you can continue to build on top of it and you don't have to worry about it caving in or trying to blow another balloon up inside of there. That's kind of a hassle. It can be done, but that's another reason for trying to get a second one in there if you can. What do you think of the smell?
It's not offensive. It's just,
It doesn't stink.
No.
It's just a different smell. It just smells like wet paper mostly, but then kind of like bread dough.
a little bit.
It's a little bit confusing. Like ew, gross, wet paper, but then also, wow, kind of smells like somebody's making bread.
I can tell you don't have coronavirus because you can smell stuff.
Oh, well, that hopefully that's the case, right? Uh-oh, my sleeve is coming down. There we go. That part feels thin. Yeah, at this point, I'm running blind. I've lost track of where I was, so I'm just trying to feel across the surface. And if it feels thin, I'm adding more to it. That's what I get for chatting while I'm trying to build. Oh well. Looking good.
Thanks.
Gee, thanks, teacher. Do you know how many layers you're at?
I'm working on my second layer.
Okay. Because I've lost track of mine. I'm not gonna lie. I think some parts of mine have 3 layers at this point, but I'm just gonna keep going for a minute. See how far I can push it. Come back to this tomorrow and it's still a wet mess, then I'll know that I messed up. It's a little chunky looking, but not too bad. Get some right across this bottom part that's thin.
Just gonna walk up on the table here.
Good idea. I did a little bit of that over here myself. Oh man. I gotta apologize. I'm repping East High School today because that's where my kids went to high school. So please forgive Stoughton Vikings. Oh man, just found a full-on blank spot. How did I miss that?
Because your balloon's white.
Alright, gotta fix that.
This open floor plan worked great until your Snyder of Hanover.
Okay, maybe don't flick it on me.
With a real door.
What fun is that?
It's always fresh down. Irresistible slow bake, unbelievably crushing Snyder's of
Don't start nothing. Don't beat nothing.
Don't worry, I know better than to start anything with you. Dip my face in this. what's really going to be a bummer is if the speakers don't pick up the music, because sometimes it just picks up voices. Oh well. All right, you want to be done? I think we have to be done. But I can't turn anything off till I want And there you have the basic technique for building the base layer of your pinata. So there you go.